Well, good morning, everyone. It is 11 minutes past sunrise, and 74 degrees with a high of 83. That's a real break. We're looking at 81 to 86 for the next 10 days. Let's see about that good old humidity. 91% dew point. I never really understand that dew point, but 71% right now. So, yeah, it's really nice to have these kinds of information at your fingertips, you know. But just imagine. I try to remember, you know, what it must have been like for my parents. Of course, you know, there was no radio, much less, you know, I mean, we had the Britannica for information, and of course, the almanac, and wisdom. And who is going to carry on that wisdom today? A handful of homesteaders? I don't know. You know, every day I hear another story about how many farms we're losing, how many family farms were lost, thousands in a year. And it's just like, wow. Remember the book I mentioned well, I guess it was last year. So when did I listen to it? I listened to it in January, so it came out last year, Land Rich, Cash Poor, which is the plight of so many family farms. And really, if you just look at the big picture and just see what's going on, it's just a handful of family enterprises keeping this whole idea of growing your own food alive. Because even the big industrial farmers are selling out and they're putting in solar farms. When I was in North Carolina, my son took me trap shooting, and in case you don't know, because he had to explain it to me, we went skeet shooting outside of Austin when I stayed there for Christmas in 2019. And the difference is it's a whole big course, and you take a side-by-side or a golf cart, you know, from each location to a location, and it shoots these different directions. And it's time consuming to do the course, so you don't want to pay that money, or if you have a membership, you know, I don't know how they work out all the money. I know that in North Carolina, Walker put his card in the machine to pay for the game, or to deduct, however it works. Anyway, we only had an hour because the baby has got to be, you know, cared for. So we ducked out for an hour, and he took me trap shooting. The other was skeet, and it takes more time. And trap, they have standing places all in one area. You don't, your car's right there, the office is right there. You're just in this one area by the office, and you stand in different positions, you know, maybe 10 feet apart, and the skeet goes out away from, the clay disc goes out away from you in different directions. And so it's less time consuming, and you can run over there and do that. And then they've just recently gotten a membership at the Biltmore, so that's just great. I want to be able to do it again. So My friend Gina says, once you get the hang of such and such, you'll hit it every time. I'm going, oh, okay, really? All right, well, I hit 18 out of 19, so, and I hit the 17th and 18th disc. One of the discs, I just spazzed out and didn't pull the trigger. So I missed one, but a total of 20, one miss and 2 hits. And for me, and not having any sense of how to get it, and even, this particular shotgun was a 16 gauge, which is pretty, rare, and it's about 70 years old, and of course they made them substantial back then, and so after lifting that thing 20 times, my shoulder was sore, so, but no bruises like with my shotgun. As my brother says, my gun kicks like a mule. Yeah, and 3 shots and my shoulder's sore. So I need one of those pads. Anyway, I digress. So I'm just out for sunrise, and I fully expect Randy to pull up in 2 minutes. So we don't have much time to chat. But I just thought we would catch up. The itinerary for today is to start on the project I mentioned in part 2. And I'm thinking you're probably going to get to see this right after that. The way, if I get it edited and get it scheduled for tomorrow, we'll see. But I have been worried about where to put my firewood. Now I have to say, it's great when there's snow on the ground to walk out the back and just walk across a few steps, either on the porch. I keep the small firewood rack under the porch, so I don't have that covered. I can just walk out and I can load up my little hand cart truck and take it in. And then when it's clear, I load that back up from the wood that's right there. Well, the wood that's right there on the deck is going away. I want the deck to be a place I want to walk out and sit just like this. Why not? Why not enjoy it? Especially now that I have a nice table and chairs. And of course I'll need an umbrella. But anyway, that is the plan, is to put the firewood along the right side of my driveway over here. It's obscured. You won't even really see it. I try to frame all that out of my shots anyway, because it's weeds growing up through rocks, and so might as well be a nice 4 racks. I want 2 cords, in case the power goes out. I want to make sure I have 2 cords ready. And then I don't have to walk up the hill, I just have to walk straight across here. And that I can do with a gorilla cart, once a day. If there's snow, a gorilla cart, I can go in the snow. So I think, when you look at it, if there's no power outage, I basically need wood from the end of October to the end of March. I mean, you can extend it just for fun, pleasure, but you don't really, need it unless you had a cold snap. And so the rest of the year, the deck is piled up with firewood. And so I am going to be so happy to have that over there. And it is all it's going to cost me is labor. Now, later, perhaps I could build an actual shed, just with posts, support beams, and just a roof, and it would be even better than those metal racks with whatever put on top. So we'll see, but at least this we can do right away. I don't have to have a big chunk of money, and we can get started trying to work on the deck back there. So that's what's going on with that. And in the first shot, I wanted you to see, I am hoarse. This is the first time I've opened my mouth today, so. I wanted you to see, because yesterday I pulled in the garage and I had some extra packages of the solar string lights, you know, the Christmas lights that I have always had around my big lower garden. And I do that, it's basic, sometime after midnight it stops, you know, glowing. Sometimes once in a while, you know, I look out at 4 o'clock and I might see some of the strands. But at any rate, it's just cheerful. And it's not obnoxious to neighbors or anything. So, in fact, I think they like it. When they drive by, they see the Christmas lights around the party lights, whatever you want to call them, around the lower garden. So I had planned to do that here, but I just, in the last month, just forgotten about it with all the stuff we were doing. By the way, what did you think of the rock seating, the rock wall, the seating area? That I showed that in the last video. It has, we have to refine some things, and I have to get some cushions, you know, so that you want to sit there for more than a minute. But yesterday when I pulled in, I saw one of those packages of Christmas lights laying there, and I thought, Kaye, just go do that, you know. And so it was 10 o'clock by the time I got done, and I was dripping wet, and the sun was just starting to hit this area. But I just draped it around what is there, which is just some little garden stakes this high with fishing line. It's just a suggestion to the deer that maybe you don't want to go in here. I mean, obviously they can walk all night long, they can walk all over this thing if they choose to. But there's only one thing that I've seen deer make a beeline. I saw it on my camera, is dahlia. I saw them stepping into this garden last year to eat the dahlia. Now, I had a dahlia come back this year, but it hasn't bloomed. And it's 1.5 feet tall, and I don't know. I don't know enough about dahlias. I know that when we did the video at Daryl's at the end of, let's see, that was the end of June. No, wait. When did we do that? The Garden Addict. A Gardener's Addiction. When did we do that? Was it the end of June? I guess so. Anyway, his were in full bloom. He started his from seed, so I definitely have to get some seed. But yeah, this is what I do every morning, and I try to think about the circadian rhythm. And the UVA rise comes, well, I've got it right here, let's see. The UVA is just about to start rising, and it says at 6:35. This is 6:05. So, you know, I better check my messages to make sure. I've got time to go do my dishes. Randy's going to be here at 7. So it is a little bit cooler. But I'm looking on here. My garden is burning up. Okay, it's just burning up. And I'm just ready to say, okay, I'm done. You know, I haven't eaten the preserved food from the last year. I still have preserved canned tomatoes sauce from 21, you know, so it's just like, do I really want to do all that again for more? You know, I have a case of pints of Italian pasta sauce from last year sitting in there. I can't get it all eaten myself. So that's what's going on. The flowers are looking a little sad, and I'm still hopeful these butterfly bushes are going to pull in the butterflies. The spice bush, somebody said it was a spice bush. I was thinking it's called the pipevine swallowtail. No, the Dutch, let's see. Okay, so I saw this video, a short little video, or it was, what was it? It was just something short. And I forget the creator's name, but I saved it. And she is going to be raising the host, she's growing the host plant for this particular butterfly. It looks like a black swallowtail with the blue inner wings. And I looked it up, and I thought it was called, the host plant's called Dutchman's pipe. And it says on the description that in the earlier years, when people sat out on porches, they didn't have air conditioning, so they'd sit out on the porch and fan themselves and watch the cars or watch the wagons or watch the people go by. And growing up in the South, I always saw that. You drive around in the country, and usually it's the older folks sitting on the porch, and every car that goes by, they wave, and it's just like this tradition. But it's a tradition that air conditioning kind of destroyed. Anyway, my mother, they got a single light bulb, I think the last year or two before she graduated high school. And that was the only electricity. And so just to think about what has happened since her childhood and now, it's really incredible. It's really incredible. I remember on one of my first part-time jobs, I worked in reservations in Aspen, and I went out there to ski, and I said, well, I need money, so I'm gonna get I'm good on the phone, so I'll get a job on helping people find lodging, that kind of thing. And I remember they had one of the first handheld calculators, and it costs a lot of money. Something, I don't even know if people don't even buy them anymore, I don't guess, because you got one on your phone. Everything is tied to the phone, the watch, there's a downside to that. Unfortunately, I think young people are going to be so stuck on the convenience that they'll be the ones that that are going to suffer, because if you don't know how to do stuff, and you don't read books, and you don't do your own research, and you just rely, for example, on AI, which is all programmed by humans with certain attitudes, or the government. So it's a very interesting future, and for young people. What else is on my mind? Well, I'll tell you is all these earthquakes in Yellowstone. That's on my mind, and I just heard this, but you can do your own research. You can always do your own research. Don't take my word for anything. I'm just telling you my opinion or my experience. But I heard that the big mammals were migrating out of Yellowstone. If that's true, that's significant, because animals know. They sense. I met this person who, let's see, who was it? Somebody was telling me I just met somebody yesterday. You know, their dog knows like days in advance if there's going to be a storm, and they're hiding in the closet. And, you know, animals know, you know. So I don't know what's up with that. And then, of course, the 8.8, the 6th largest earthquake in recorded history, just happened off the coast of Japan and Russia. So things are on the move, definitely. A lot of YouTubers are talking about it. I haven't done the research, but it's definitely concerning. So anyway, what we're going to work on today is, I said in the last video I wasn't doing a fall garden, and I'm not. Although I might, you know, start some lettuce or something, you know, that's quick. But I am going to put in snow peas. And they're 60-day, so if I get them in today or tomorrow, you're looking at the end of September. So I'll have fresh peas through October until, well, it's frost tolerant too, so, you know, I could have fresh peas going into November, and that would be nice, you know. I'm kind of tired of beans, you know. It's like green beans it's not my favorite thing to eat, and I was growing all these green beans. I go, okay, what are you doing? You know, I just love all the varieties. I love seeing varieties. I love seeing plants grow. It's what gives you a reason to get up in the morning and just go see, you know, did that bloom? Is it making a vegetable? You know, and did the pests eat it? Did the critters eat it? Did the deer get in the fence? You know, it's just, you never ever know. But let's see, let's circle back to where we started. We started about, you know, the family farm, and it's so very threatened. And it is it going to be a handful of young homesteaders that salvage the information? You know, if the old timers die out, I mean, I can't ask my grandparents about anything. They're long gone. And my parents weren't farmers, so, and they're long gone. Well, my mother's not long gone, but she's gone. You know, it's a lot to think about. So, with that, I will sign off and wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoyed your coffee while I perhaps talked about some things that made you think without getting you too depressed. Because there's always the beauty of the garden, you know. And when winter comes, this whole thing, all of these plants except for the lilac, I believe, yeah, there isn't one thing in that whole garden that will have a structure over winter. It'll die back. That's the beauty of the lilac, is like the leaves fall off, but the bush is still there. So you know where that landmark is. And I would like a few landmarks, you know, things that don't just disappear. But that hasn't happened. And I guess the difference is the woody stem. Is that it? I just thought of this. So is it the fact that the lilac bush has a woody stem as opposed to the cranberry hibiscus, which is not a woody, the branches are not woody, you know, at all? So that must be the difference. You learn something every day.